Hi everyone, I'm here to offer you some instructions and information for the second week in our course. So welcome to week 2. I hope week 1 went pretty smoothly for you, though I know it can be overwhelming to just kind of learn to navigate the different areas of a D2L course. But hang in there, it will become more comfortable, I promise you. Week number 2 is really early, so if you're still feeling a bit overwhelmed, that's okay and that's normal. Just spend some time clicking around and playing around in our course area. All right, I do want to start off by saying that I've read all of your introduction posts and I really appreciate your willingness to share a little bit about yourself. It's been nice kind of getting to know you, even if it's digitally, and to just kind of see your responses to one another. Even though we're not face to face and having those conversations, we can at least do our best to create that kind of environment with our weekly posts. So y'all are doing amazing, and thanks again for sharing a little bit about you. I hope to learn more as the semester progresses. So not only about you, but I hope we all learn a bit about the British literature in this era. What I'm going to do is pull up D2L and just walk you through where to go and what to do. So always go ahead and start with the content area. I will post any announcements that are, important if I'm updating the schedule, or if I want to offer you a reminder, or if I just kind of post that weekly video so it's easy to find. But you can always go to the content area here. Remember that all the information you'll need for the course is somewhere in this area. And if you're unable to locate a document, even though you've looked everywhere, just let me know and I'll try to help out. So in week number 2, which we're in, I've noted, this is just from your schedule. I've rearranged things a little bit so that in a glance, you'll be able to see what we're doing. We do have quite a bit of reading and information to cover this week. Every week will not be like this. So if you're feeling like this is a lot of work and a lot of time for this class, that's understandable. We're starting off in a pretty intensive way, but it's to kind of give us a good foundation, right? So these introductory paragraphs in our course text, they're not always the spiciest and most awesome things to read, but they're providing us with really important context so that as we read authors from these specific decades and time periods, we understand what life was like at that time, what writing was like at that time, and we always want to, again, pay attention to what are we not reading about, whose experiences are we perhaps not seeing in those things that we're reading and learning about, okay? So take a break when it comes to our text, especially this week's reading. Say, I'm going to read 7 pages and then take a break, because the font is very small in the printed text and even online. And there's just so much information to cover. So please don't just sit and say, I'm going to take an hour and read this entire, all the readings for this week. An hour is not enough. You want to schedule some breaks in there, give your eyes a rest, give your brain a rest, because if you try to do it all at once, you will not be taking in that information, and you will be so fatigued and tired that you won't be thinking about your questions, comments, inquiries, right? You're not going to be an engaged reader. So work on some sort of approach that is the best for you. Find a good place to sit that's maybe not too comfortable. You don't want to fall asleep. Try to find, if you're a quiet reading person, find a quiet space. It may not be possible for all of us right now if we have tons of people in the house. If you need a little bit of background noise, then, make the best kind of reading environment for yourself, but take those breaks, okay? I'm just saying, you'll get it once you start the reading. We're also going to be reading Barbauld's biography, so we'll get a little bit of background about Barbauld, who is from the Romantic period, right? And I also want you to read her poem, which is called The Mouse's Petition. And then after doing all of that, or before, there's no particular order. I mean, I definitely recommend you do the reading of the Romantic period before reading about Barbauld, but you can start, or maybe in between, taking a break, in the course text reading, watch Adichie's TED Talk, which is called The Danger of a Single Story. This is just a great way to start the semester because she is really working to identify some of the things that I think are going to be important to us as we move through this text and through the semester. So it's just a good way to kind of kick off our readings and the way that we're learning and thinking about the Romantic period to the present. Okay, so remember that we have 2 different sections and possibly two different books. So make sure that you're reading the proper pages for your section. Remember, your section number can always be found at the top of the D2L area. If you're working with the online versions, it may not be quite as painful, but I hope it's not painful for any of you. So on Monday, that's when I'll post all the videos and, all the reminders. So this week, we do have the reading journal video. We also have a discussion post video that's just kind of a supplemental one to what we learned about last week, if you watched that discussion video. And then I am noting that you're going to want to start your reading journal, right? So I say be sure to keep up with your reading journal, include all texts, and review the instructional video if necessary. That is going to make sense once you watch the reading journal video, okay? And then your discussion post is due on Thursday. You need to respond to 2 people, right, by Sunday, as well as completing the participation quiz. It's a lot, right? So don't do it all in one sitting, but also know that you can go through step by step. Remember that the check marks here don't necessarily mean that you've completed that work. It just means you visited that area. So I've posted the discussion rubric here just for you to look at again. There's the general discussion post video that I posted last week, but I wanted to share again, and it's probably a good idea for you to watch it again. And then the supplemental, it's a briefer video that just kind of addresses some of the things for this week, but also goes through that rubric again. So it's just kind of making sure that information is fresh on your mind. Here, though it's not posted yet, will also be the reading journal video. So just make sure you're watching that as well, because you need to start your reading journal as you read this week, okay? That's an assignment. So week 2's post comes in 3 sections, and it's based one on each of the readings, right? So the first one is from the Romantic era. So I ask you to write 2 full paragraphs in relation to the prompt that's here. Then have a space between the different parts. You don't have to do indentations for these paragraphs, just put spaces between paragraphs, and you can label them part 1, part 2. I'm not really picky about the format as long as you're separating those paragraphs just in general so that I can see when your ideas are shifting, right? Part 2 is about Barbauld's biography and the poem. Okay, so I put 1 paragraph for, what do you find interesting about her life? And then 1 paragraph for the actual poem. Okay, so, if you're keeping track, right, you want 2 paragraphs for part 1, 2 paragraphs for part 2, and then we get to part 3, which is Adiche's video. And I put, what is the most important point? Why? How does her video relate to our Romantic era reading? And then I put 1 to 2 paragraphs. That's, I have a little leeway in that section because it just all depends on how you want to develop your ideas for that prompt. Okay. Your response is due by 11:59 p.m. and your responses to 2 colleagues are due by 11:59 p.m. on Sunday. So Thursdays and Sundays will generally just be our due dates and times. And I put, for your responses, show that you've read the person's work and engage with their ideas, right? If you agree with something, if you maybe don't necessarily agree with something, put that into, useful full sentences, and don't just say, yeah, I agree. Say, I hadn't thought about it this way, but I tend to agree because when I read it, full, complete sentences. And y'all, I'm going to put my face. You need to make sure you're revising and editing your posts, okay? I've mentioned it before. I'm going to continue to mention it. You will want to put your work in Microsoft Word and use the spell or grammar check features, or Google Docs. They also have spell and grammar check features. They're not perfect, right? But they're going to give you a good start. They're going to give you a sense of where you need to focus attention in revisions. Always be revising, right? You can also use Grammarly. Why not, right? Part of your grade is how effectively you're communicating your ideas, and that means proper spelling and grammar, capitalization, all of that good stuff, okay? So make sure you're taking that extra step of revisions, okay? You also have a quiz for week 2. I would suggest you do that after you complete at least the reading post, because the post is going to kind of push your ideas so that then once you get to the quiz, that information is kind of settled. So that's, but it's up to you. You can do it in whatever, whatever order is best for you, but the quiz is also going to be due on Sunday, okay? If you have some questions or concerns about what we're doing in the upcoming week, you can always post in the Q&A area of the discussion board. That's the best option, because if you have that question, other folks are going to have that question as well. But you can also email me and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. So we had a wonderful week 1. I'm really hopeful for an awesome week 2. Good luck, and keep me posted if you're still having some problems or concerns about just navigating D2L. All right, good luck this week.